Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining Outlive. Outlive is a 2 to 4 player game that plays in approximately half an hour per player. So with 4 players you should play for around about 2 hours. It is a neo-futuristic, post-apocalyptic world type game. There's a whole bunch of that type of game around, but this one's a little bit different. I got mine on Kickstarter, so when you watch the videos you may see a couple of elements in there that don't look the same as if you buy them commercially. In this game you have 4 meeples that you will send out onto the shared board in the world, and they will be placed around the board. There's multiple various spots, I think there's about 9. So when it's your turn, you will move each of your meeples up to 2 spots. But there's a couple of caveats on it. So they all lie down to show they've been unused yet. When you move one, you stand it up. You can move a meeple up to 2 spaces in any direction. So clockwise or anti-clockwise around each of the spots. The problem is that you're not allowed to move a meeple onto a space where you have another one of your own coloured meeple, which means that you've really got to think about the order in which you move these guys around. So if you want to get up to the dam at the top of the board and you've got someone who went there last turn, you're going to have to move them before you're able to move into that spot. There's a real puzzle on the order in which you can move things around. Now, the other thing is that you'll move one, then the next person around will move one, and etc. all the way around the table. So what ends up happening is that if you wish to go to a space where there is an active, so it's a standing meeple of another player, you're going to have to, so let me take a step back. Each of those meeples has a number on it. If your number is higher than the number on the meeple that's already there from another player, you're going to have to do a thing that's called put pressure on that other player. And they are going to have to either meet your number, so if they're a 3 and you're a 5, they're going to have to find either 2 ammunition that they've got, that they've picked up as a resource from somewhere else on the board. They're going to have to use those 2 ammunition to not lose any bits, or they will lose 2 resources to you, because you're a stronger player, and it's basically putting pressure on them to take stuff off them. So it's a little bit attacky. I had a 2-player game of this, and we found that we were able to avoid putting pressure on each other too much, because myself and my wife, we really don't like attacking each other in games so much. I do it when it's part of the game because it's part of the game, but my wife has a real aversion to it, so I tend to not do that wherever possible, but if I have to, I will. So I think I only ended up putting pressure on her 1 time. Every other movement we managed to just make it happen without having to do that. I think in a higher player count game, everyone would have to put pressure on people a lot more. So that's something to be aware of with this game. There's a tiny bit of that attackiness in there. Now, what you're doing is you're getting resources. Your resources might be water, or meat, or canned food, all of which will be consumed in a consumption phase later in the game, or the resources might be microchips, which you're going to need microchips to be able to make the dam work to get you water that isn't radioactive, or the metal or ammunition. There's a few other resources that you'll be able to gather from the various places. There's 2 cities where you can pick up some equipment cards. That equipment is broken, so you bring it in, you put it on one side of your board. At a later phase, you'll be able to try to fix that equipment using resources you've collected. Once you've fixed that equipment, that will give you bonuses, and ongoing bonuses for future things. So some of them might help you with hunting, or they might help you with not needing quite as much resources or food to be able to keep your people fed. The overall idea of the game is that you're just trying to be the best survivor, so that when the big survivory people come through, they'll see who's the best survivor in this area, and they'll take that clan or that tribe to go with them and be safe in their underground caverns. So everyone has their own player board, which is this kind of inside the mountain underground kind of space, which has rooms. None of the rooms are open, except for one or two one which you will open up at the beginning of the game. Each of those rooms needs to have survivors on them to be able to get the benefit that room comes with. If you even have 1 survivor in a room, you're going to have to pay food or water to keep them fed and happy. It's the same amount no matter how many survivors you have in that room. It's usually 3. Some of the rooms hold 4. But you need to have a full complement of those survivors in the room in order to be able to get the benefit of that room. Now, the benefits of those rooms can be really good. They can seem a little bit, they're okay, I guess. So one of them is, in order to open up other rooms, you actually need to pay 3 resources. Your choice of which resources you pay, but you have to pay 3 resources to open up another room, make another room active and able to hold more survivors to get its benefit. One of the starting rooms, once that's active and once it's got full complement of survivors in it, it will only cost you 1 resource to build another room. Things like that. There's one which will enable you to not have to have as many survivors hanging out up in the airlock. So there's an airlock spot. You've got to have 1 survivor up there to keep everyone safe, I guess. And at the beginning of the game, and then the next turn you've got to have 2 up there, and 3 and 4, and the number of survivors needed up there to keep everything safe in your area it increases as the game goes on, and you've got to keep them with water to keep them working and not die. So this other room makes it so you have to only have 1 less up there to be able to keep the area clean and sanitary. There's a radioactive track which will either add points or lose points. Most of the time lose points at the end of the game if you've had to be pushed up that radioactive track because you didn't have enough survivors in your airlock or something else happened through the game. Look, I think this is a relatively meaty game. It's got enough thought to it. It's kind of mid-weighty is probably the best way to put it. There's enough to it to make it really thinky and to kind of get your head in the right spot. I'm not 100% convinced on the balance of the rooms or really the usefulness of those rooms to some extent. Some of them are great and make things really, really happen quickly. But some of them, the cost of using them or the cost of getting the guys in there is offset by the skill that's presented by that room. So it might cost you 2 resources to feed the guys in there, but the room will provide you with 2 resources. That's kind of just a generic kind of example. I'm not 100% that there is a room just like that, but it feels a little bit like that in some spots. So other than that balance on that bit, the main board plays beautifully. I really, really like the mechanisms used in that main board for having to go somewhere that you are not. I think that works really well and is a wonderful puzzle to be able to get somewhere. So you kind of think, okay, I need this, how do I get to that? How do I need to manipulate my 4 guys? In what order do I need to move them with their strength so that I'm not going to have to end up with, like, I know that this player wants to get to that spot. If I put a number 3 guy on that spot, he's probably going to get pressure put on him, so I'm going to have to pay that player some resources. So I want to get my number 5 there, so I'm not going to have to pay that. But in order to get my number 5 there, I'm going to have to move this one over here first and this one there. This juggle, I guess, of your 4 meeples is really, really good. The rules read very easily and are relatively straightforward. They're in a succinct manner. It's written by, I'm pretty sure it's a French, well, it is a French game. I'm pretty sure they're French speaking naturally, so English second language. It's come up pretty well. The resource pieces, they are pretty small. I like them. They're thick. There's a little bit to them, but they're quite small as well. That's my only minor gripe I've got in this game is that just these tiny little water pieces, water chits, they flick out and can get lost really easily. So it's just something to be aware of. Be careful with your bits when you're playing. So look, I think I'll leave it there without Liv. Go on and watch the Gamesplanations and get an idea of the game. I think it's a game that deserves people's attention and deserves some time spent looking at it and playing it. So please, go on, watch the videos. If you have any comments or suggestions, write them below. If you like what I do, subscribe to my videos so you can keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Follow my blog, thegamesplainer.wordpress.com, to hear about my weeks of gaming. It's kind of linked with what I do on the Instagram and Twitter. If you have any games that you wish to be gamesplaned, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. And until next time, enjoy gaming.